Given that stories typically need time to build up to the more defining beats, most movie-making moments are naturally going to come from later in their film's runtimes. For today's video, however, we have an early outlier of that trend, a narrative stroke of genius that occurs less than half an hour into the plot.
Hey!
Get down.
The term killing machine has never been as literal as when used to describe the original incarnation of the T-800, and yet the Jason Voorhees of sci-fi is now a good guy. T2 hides this fairly audacious twist from the very beginning by, for the lack of a more film academia sounding term, playing dumb. In the grand tradition of lesser sequels, T2 at first seems like a total rehash of its predecessor. A Terminator is sent back in time to kill eventual savior of humanity John Connor, as is a protector to defend him. Terminator 2, here we go again. That is until John becomes trapped between his hunter and guardian, and true allegiances are revealed. 30 minutes of solid buildup is all well and good, but get down as a movie-making moment in a more literal sense. The movie can't happen without it. The ultimate goal of the main characters is to stop the titular robo-apocalyptic Judgment Day, and giving the allied T-800 extensive knowledge of the future events that lead to it is a remarkably natural way to make this feasible. A member of the team knows exactly what needs to be changed. You really couldn't ask for a cleaner story element than that. Even getting to that history-altering point, sans Arnie, would be a problem though, as resourceful as protagonists Sarah and John Connor are, given the presence of the T-1000, who is even more deadly and unstoppable than the first film's antagonist. Upping the ante for sequels is great, so this Terminator Pro Plus is an excellent inclusion, but in a relatively grounded action movie such as this, one adult and one child wouldn't realistically stand much of a chance against it, leaving us with a pretty brief and bleak film. Giving them a heavy hitter in the form of the inferior T-800 keeps our heroes as underdogs but not completely out of the fight, and this dynamic leads to perfectly balanced tension throughout the film. It also allows the T-800 to shine as a bona fide action hero, and as shallow as it sounds, this is a genuinely important benefit to the character's turn. Terminator 2 is an impossibly cool movie, and a huge part of that comes from the viewer's new acceptance of Schwarzenegger's lawful neutral badass. People tend to gravitate towards or even root for villains anyway, especially in genre films, so why not remove the contradiction and spread some of that goodwill to your other heroes at the same time? The hero most in need of goodwill would be John Connor. Before the story proper kicks in, John is kind of a brat, but he snaps out of that once thrust into the reality of his situation and, brilliantly, given control of the iconic Terminator. This agency allows, first and foremost, John to be a properly active protagonist. After all, he is a 10-year-old and therefore couldn't drive a whole lot of sci-fi plot solo, but more importantly, it reveals his true character. He instates a strict no-killing rule in an attempt to teach the T-800 about right and wrong, and insists, despite the clear danger, on saving both his mother from the T-1000 and then Miles Dyson, the man inadvertently responsible for Judgment Day, from her in the third act. This also solves a problem similar to one posed by Victor Laszlo in Casablanca, which I've discussed in a previous video, in that T2 has to deliver on an established great leader, even if this one is currently only in middle school. By allowing John to lead a single soldier and showing us the decisions he makes when granted the authority to do so, we're given clear insight into his potential. John's mother, Sarah Connor, sees this potential too. In fact, that's more or less all she sees. This is a justifiably severe and hardened Sarah, a radicalized overcorrection of the more naive girl next door we saw early in the first film. She lives entirely under the shadow of Judgment Day, and her third act assassination plan proves with particular effectiveness just how far she's been pushed by even her most noble of motives. Ironically, this keeps her in contrast with the non-lethal, humanity-gaining T-800 for a second movie, the film frequently juxtaposing John's growing bond with the cyborg with her colder demeanor towards him. Sarah's eventual arc of softening this militant attitude towards John and genuinely reconnecting with her son is only possible because of the core thematic meaning of the T-800's inverted role. If the literal face of humanity's dark fate can become good, perhaps the doom it represents can be changed too. After all, is Sarah really in the wrong to treat John the way she does? It comes across as a bit cruel to us, but Sarah Sarah has to treat John as more marine than child, lest she risk billions of lives. Only once the T-800's sudden benevolent arrival rattles Sarah's despair is she gradually able to let go of that fear without neglecting her responsibilities. In the end, the message of the T-800 gaining humanity is what keeps Sarah from losing hers. This also gives Terminator 2 Judgment Day its heart, not only in the form of the T-800's sympathetic character development and climactic tear-jerking sacrifice, but in its optimistic ending. The original Terminator ends with "There's a storm coming," a fitting enough cyberpunk sentiment, but T2 delivers the far more satisfying sentiment of hope and a pitch-perfect resolution to the two-part tale. John and Sarah can have a normal life, the human race has another chance, and I don't have to feel guilty about one of my favorite movies being technophobic. So sure, Get Down isn't the most impactful or emotional moment of Terminator 2 Judgment Day, but in hindsight and upon rewatch, it is the one that shapes the film in the most exciting and meaningful ways, proclaiming loud and clear that the rulebook of its franchise, like the future, is never truly set. Thank you so much for watching Movie Making Moments. If you liked the video, what a concept. If you want to see more in the future, please subscribe, and if you want to see more right now, you got 2 videos linked right over there. Next time, I'm going to be discussing Rush, Ron Howard's Rush, so tune in next time. Ron...